Ladies and gentlemen, today I'd like to speak to you about Iceland. Iceland is known as the land of ice and fire, and it is precisely this that I would like to discuss today. I don't really want to speak about the economic crisis that Iceland has recently suffered. I don't really want to touch upon the measures that Iceland put in place, the Icelandic government put in place in order to overcome the crisis. I prefer to speak about the country from a geological perspective, speaking about the island itself. So, Iceland is actually a relatively young island. It was formed only 20 million years ago. Now, 20 million years can seem an eternity to us simple mortals, we could say, but in terms of the lifespan of our planet Earth, 20 million years is almost nothing, since our planet has been around for billions and billions of years. So, Iceland was formed as a result of a series of volcanic eruptions. Lava spewed out from underneath the Earth's surface, and slowly this built up until the lava broke above the surface of the water, creating an island. This has led to unique landscapes in Iceland, and this means that it's a very beautiful place to visit today. The fact that it is very far north means that there are many glaciers on Iceland. The fact that it is a volcanic landscape means that it can be described as lunar. It is very barren, like the moon. But you can also see green pastures, and you can see areas of natural beauty. So Iceland was formed as a result of a battle between the elements, a battle between water, ice, and fire, a very dramatic way of an island being created. It was formed just outside the Arctic Circle, just south of the Arctic Circle. Within the Arctic Circle, of course, during winter, it is dark 24 hours a day. And Iceland itself although it doesn't suffer complete darkness for 24 hours, the night times in winter are incredibly long. So as we all know, planet Earth is divided up into tectonic plates. Iceland straddles the American and the Eurasian tectonic plates. It is between both of them. And you can see today how these two plates are actually pulling apart one from the other. This takes place at a rate of 2 centimeters per year. So this means that nowadays Iceland is actually growing. The island is becoming larger as a result of these two plates pulling apart and lava being pushed up in the gap. Today you can visit the valley where the two tectonic plates meet. You can stand on one side of the valley and look across, and you can see how the Earth how the tectonic plates of the Earth are pulling apart. You can observe the gap between the American landmass and the European landmass, and it's a very impressive sight. Now, of course, with so much volcanic activity, the Icelandic people have to be very wary of eruptions. And the eruptions that take place on Iceland can be impressive, but also very damaging. One particularly harmful eruption took place in 1783. In fact, it was much worse than harmful. It was absolutely devastating for Iceland and for many parts of Europe as well. This eruption opened up a fissure which was 25 kilometers long. It created 100 volcanoes. 100 volcanoes suddenly opened up in the Earth's surface, spewing out fountains of lava. The eruption took place for a period of 9 months in total, and over this period, more than 10 cubic kilometers of lava were spilled out onto the Earth's surface. This took place over a surface area of 550 kilometers squared. So this area which was affected by the eruption was 5 times the size of Paris. This eruption represented the largest lava flow that humanity has ever seen. There were clouds of volcanic ash which were caused as a result of the eruption. This meant that the sky was covered over and no light could reach the crops on the Earth's surface. This meant that in Iceland and in other parts of Europe there was famine. A quarter of Iceland's population was killed as a result of the famine that was caused. And the consequences were not just restricted to Iceland, but as I was saying, the rest of Europe suffered a great deal as well. Now, you may, of course, I'm sure you do remember the famous volcanic ash cloud which was formed in April 2010. For 6 days, this ash cloud led to absolute chaos. It meant that 20 countries had to close their airspace. Planes across the whole of Europe and elsewhere were grounded as a result of not being able to fly. There was absolute travel chaos around the world. However, this event of 2010 was absolutely nothing compared to the eruption of 1783. The 1783 eruption caused a wintry climate to affect the most of Western Europe, and it meant that there were very cold conditions across Europe right up until June. This destroyed the harvest of that year and left many people dying of hunger. This took place just 5 years before the French Revolution, of course, and so we could say, some might say, that this volcanic ash cloud was actually a contributing factor to the social unrest which took place in France at the time. Now, talking of revolutions, what about revolutions in Iceland? Well, there are, of course, many revolutions in Iceland, but they're not in any way similar to the French Revolution. Here I'm talking about geological revolutions. These seem to be happening all the time in Iceland. The island itself seems to be constantly churned up, and it seems that it's being constantly transformed by the Earth's forces. There is an eruption taking place in Iceland roughly every 4 years. There are in total over 200 active volcanoes in Iceland, and any of them could erupt at any moment. So this may seem like a huge threat to the Icelandic population, but actually the population of Iceland is very small. It is only 319,000 people, and there are many areas of the island which are completely uninhabited, and this is because of the perilous volcanoes that exist on the island. However, occasionally there are large disasters. There are huge eruptions which devastate the island. These eruptions wreak havoc on the people. The last very serious one was just over 30 years ago. At this time, a huge eruption took place, and one town in Iceland had to be entirely evacuated. Many homes were lost in the area. However, the Icelandic people were very well prepared for a disaster of this type. They had ingenious measures in place in order to ensure that they would be able to protect their surroundings and to protect their homes. What they did was to pump water from the sea and to spray it onto the lava as it was flowing down the side of the volcano. The aim of this was to cool the lava so that it would stop in its tracks. And surprisingly enough, this technique actually worked, and many of the buildings in the area, many of the homes were saved, as well as many people's lives. Another eruption is very famous, another eruption from just a few years ago. This eruption led to the creation of an entirely new island. This eruption took place just over 40 years ago, and the island that was created is still one of the youngest islands on the planet. If you're interested and if you want to visit this new island, unfortunately you almost certainly won't be able to. It is only scientists that are allowed access to this new island because of the great importance that this island holds in terms of studying nature. The fact that we have a new island means that scientists are able to study how nature develops in an area which is in a land which is completely untouched by human beings. If you visit Iceland, another thing to see, of course, is the ice itself. Ice, which is a part of the country's name. In particular, you can visit one glacier which covers a huge part of the country's surface. It actually makes up over 8% of the whole of Iceland. With so much ice and with so much hot lava pouring onto this island's surface, of course you could imagine that there is a lot of water flowing down the sides flowing through Iceland, and this creates many beautiful waterfalls. These waterfalls are particularly breathtaking because of the fact that the rock is very young, and so this means that as the water flows through it, it carves out its own path and it creates beautiful landscapes and astounding waterfalls. Also, you can visit the geysers on Iceland. These are extraordinary spectacles. If you go to a geyser, you can stand by it, you can wait for the bubbles to appear on the surface, and seconds afterwards you'll see a huge eruption of water shooting out, gushing out in an enormous speed. And in some of the geysers in Iceland, you can see the water rising up like a champagne bottle that's just been opened, with the water reaching heights of 60 meters. There are, of course, also the thermal baths that you can go and swim in with, and these are baths which have been naturally created and which reach temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in geology, or if you're interested in watching the Earth's forces at work, or if you simply want to see an astounding natural phenomena taking place before you, then I would urge you to visit Iceland and to see all of these great spectacles for yourself. Thank you.